Hello and welcome to episode. God knows what episode it is. We've had a month off. You guys will be able to see what episode it is, but obviously welcome to the podcast where, we obviously discuss everything our team, Liverpool Football Club, and football. So last episode was on the tie with PSG. What do you remember that game?
I do remember that game.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, wasn't it?
It was very tough. It was hard to watch. We gave them a good fight and we just didn't come out on top.
I do think that over the two legs, they deserved it.
Kind of. In the first game, They
Yeah.
played a bit better. They played a lot better than us. We just got lucky, and then the second one, it was a bit closer, but then they managed to win.
Yeah, one game at Anfield was closer. And then obviously the one at PSG was obviously we got obliterated.
Got done in, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a tough one to take. It just felt like the quadruple, like winning everything, was sort of snatched out of our hands, and that leads to the game after that, which was the final against Newcastle, and we just didn't even look like a team in that game. I know Newcastle were fired up, but even though people might say Newcastle fans going there for a final deserve it more, half of Wembley was filled to the brim with Liverpool fans, and we just didn't even look like we wanted it.
Nope.
Our players look shattered, to be fair, and they've put everything into the Premier League, which we'll go on to. But at the same time, for a team of that quality and that form, you still expect good standards in a cup final.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is disappointing.
Newcastle are a very good team as well. A lot of top quality players and whatnot. Like they're not going to be easy, are they?
You've seen teams in their prime that, like Real Madrid or Manchester City, where they've been in the form we've been in terms of their league, looking like the best team in Europe, and they wouldn't put a performance like that in a cup final. Maybe it's down to the squad depth and us relying on certain players playing the same players in every single game to get results. Maybe that just caught up to us, and I think that's what's happened. Do you remember? What's your overall opinion on that cup final?
I just think Newcastle were the better side that day. We just didn't play good enough. I mean, we obviously had some quality football, but it wasn't like, our usual standards this year.
Yeah, I think good for them.
Yeah, I think Newcastle may have just deserved it that day.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then we've had a long international break, which felt quite long. I can't remember. I think it was a week or 2 weeks, but a week or 2 weeks of us going onto the weekend after working or whatever, and there's no Premier League. It sort of just catches up to you after a week. 1 week of not having it. But obviously after the international break, tough fixture against a good Everton side. I've just put David Moyes as my assistant manager actually on FPL, but obviously we're not talking about that. Just wanted to, throw a little wild card out there. But a tough game against a good Everton side, and we got the result. Big 3 points. Important 3 points. I don't think I watched every single minute of the game due to alcohol, but I think it's a we're a side where we may not look the best, but we can drag results out when we need them. I think that's happened a lot this season. You know, I know this sounds brutal, but people are saying that Liverpool were looking like the best team in Europe. I mean, we were, but I genuinely think the Champions League and the Premier League winning team with Klopp and the Real Madrid team Champions League winning and the Manchester City treble winning were a lot better teams than us. And the way that I've been watching PSG in the Champions League, I think that's better than us in our prime this season. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just my opinion. And then, following on from the Everton game, the most recent game we had was a bit of a slip-up against Fulham, 3-2.
Yeah, just a little.
Do you remember the first goal by Liverpool there?
It was a screamer.
It was a screamer.
It was a nice one.
He's quite underrated, McAllister.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about the other one because, Gravenberch has changed position or whatever, but, he puts a lot into every single game he plays.
I think they all do, in their own way.
Yeah, it's just a shame, maybe a bit of complacency, people saying that we've already won the league, that's maybe where the 3 goals conceded were, or it's just what Slot said, it happens, on another day, that, it'd just be 1 goal. But, I mean, the good thing is, about us, I think a lot of teams are just playing it safe, and not taking enough risks, like teams in the league this season. And, when we're losing, we go to 1 centre-back and we bring on strikers for centre-backs. I think that's what's really nice to watch with us. I know we lost, but it's pleasing on the eye. So, we've looked at recent form now. We are going on to our next few fixtures. So I've obviously been looking at Liverpool and Arsenal's remaining fixtures quite a lot, just because I want to see what we need to get. And this is disregarding, the home game we have against them. Arsenal's run of fixtures is a lot more positive than ours. We do have a tough run with where we are away to Chelsea and then home to Arsenal and then away to Brighton, where, you can see us dropping points. So, in my eyes, we have 3 games coming up. Home to West Ham, away to a pretty much relegated Leicester team, and then away to a poor Spurs team this season, where we need to get 9 points, and we don't need to get 9 points, maybe that's a bad statement, but we can look to seal the Premier League and then, in the next 3 and not have, not be nervous about losing it when we go into the game against Arsenal or away to Chelsea or away to Brighton or the final game of the season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we win it. Let's just say that. But the last thing I want to discuss about Liverpool is the 3 big players and their contract situations. We all know who them 3 players are, I don't need to say. But before we do that, I want to just look at the Champions League quarterfinals this week, because me and Joe have watched both games. We watched Arsenal versus Real Madrid on Tuesday, and then Villa, PSG. Those were our choices. And do you remember the Arsenal game?
I do.
The double free kick. I mean, this
very well.
Quarterfinals never seem to disappoint. I think the Arsenal and Barcelona one and the Inter one, I feel like them 3, maybe not so much the Bayern one, but I think Arsenal will go through. They're way too good defensively. I know it's the Bernabeu, but they are solid, even without Gabriel. I think Saliba's more important for them defensively. Gabriel gives them that threat. Not saying he's not good defensively, but yeah, I think Arsenal and Barcelona will go through. I think Inter with a lead going into a home game, I think that they will win just because of their defensive stature. I think the only one I'm not too sure about is PSG Villa. I mean, I feel like I'm a bit more sure though after the last minute goal to make it 3-1 just because of how good PSG are.
Yeah, it's looking like them, isn't it? I mean, as much as you want Villa to win.
It's looking like it's going to be one semi-final is going to be Arsenal PSG and one's going to be Inter versus Barca.
Arsenal against PSG will be a close game.
However, there's one team that looks like the best team in Europe by far this season. And, you could look at the Declan Rice free kicks and the result against, the stature of Real Madrid. And then, PSG only beating us on pens and just about, getting a good result that they want against, Aston Villa. PSG actually watching them, unreal, and I could see them getting to the final along with Barcelona into a more tough one. I'll leave that on the pedestal, but yeah, a lot of brilliant quarterfinals, and I'd just like to mention that 17-year-old kid from Barcelona who keeps scoring every 5 seconds. It's crazy. He's doing it. He's been doing it for a while now. Next, Lionel Messi, Joe.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Lionel
Messi is a legend.
So let's hope for second legs to be just as entertaining as the first ones. But now let's go on to these contract situations now. We have learned a bit more about them. With Trent, it looks like he's going to go to Real Madrid. And is this time for Conor Bradley to finally take his place? Or will we see a new right back? I think Conor Bradley deserves it and we know he's good enough. But we tend to see this a lot where they want to replace a player as big as him with a player with as big of a statue as him, and that could happen with an expensive transfer fee to replace Trent. I mean, it may not, but honestly I think it will. I won't say it may be the right decision. I think Conor Bradley's good enough and there's backup there with the likes of Joe Gomez and, Joe Kwanzaa. Or maybe even getting someone on loan to cover Bradley. But it looks like Van Dijk and Salah are closing in on new deals. Now, I did think, originally my thought was it'd be Salah and Salah would go to Saudi or something and then Trent would go to Real and Van Dijk is, in my opinion, is the main priority, so I thought he would stay, but they've chosen to keep them both on. I mean, I personally think Salah could slowly drop off. Like, if he has a safety net in terms of money, we could see his performances drop off. But I think with Van Dijk, we wouldn't see that. Because obviously we know what we get with Salah in terms of goals, but does his work rate and his performances match that? And I don't know if I'm seeing that the past few games. And maybe that's to do with him getting a new contract. It probably isn't. There's Ramadan and all the other factors. Not too sure if that's ended or when it ends. But yeah, are you happy about what's your opinion on Trent going to Real and Van Dijk and Salah being the ones who we've chosen to stay?
I think all three of them are really good players, but obviously Trent's been in talks of leaving for a while, and I think he's at a point now where he's done everything at Liverpool, and he probably personally wants to move on. As much as we may want to keep him.
Because I get the homegrown thing, but I also get the other argument in terms of I won't see why people.
I think Salah and Van Dijk are obviously happy at Liverpool, so it makes sense for them to stay. They're obviously valued players as well. Like, we probably struggle a lot without them.
Yeah, Trent's at the age where he's still got good years in him, and he's won everything at Liverpool. So.
Exactly. Yeah, he's still got some.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still got a lot of his career ahead of him. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Obviously, we're going to try and post as much as we can. But yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe and turn the notification bell on so you don't miss any podcast episodes. Any last words, Joe?
Yeah, subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.